Hey everyone, this is Helena, and today I'm so excited to be talking with Bex Burton. She is a certified dream builder and love coach who helps driven, ambitious women attract lasting love. And today we're going to be talking about how to attract a really high quality man who's ready for a lifelong committed relationship, especially if you're a strong, independent woman, because as we both know, and as I'm sure you've experienced, that type of woman can really be successful in all the other areas of her life, but might have a hard time in her love life, attracting that high quality man who's commitment ready. So welcome, Bex, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Elena. Hello, audience. Lovely to be chatting with you today. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited to jump into this topic. I want to start out by asking you, what are some struggles that you see with the type of women you work with? I know are very high-powered, driven, ambitious, successful, strong women. What are some struggles that they face when it comes to their love lives?
Oh, sure. So many of them. One of them is that the love or the people, the men that they attract are not the right men. They don't live up to the vision that these women hold for their love life. A lot of times these strong, independent, ambitious women are attracting men who are not as strong or independent or forward thinking or have this great vision in their life. And so they're instead of like an alpha male per se, they're attracting beta men who are happy to have the women take the lead. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I totally everybody has their own preference in what kind of relationship, what kind of dynamic that they wish to have. But a lot of the women that I speak with really desire to attract a masculine man, an alpha man, a leader in his industry, a leader in his career, an ambitious man who's got big vision and who knows how to take the lead, who knows how to create a plan. And so a lot of times what I find with the women who come to me to chat about like what's not happening in their love life, there's this element of, I can't have what I want. Nobody's living up to my vision. Maybe I'm being too choosy. Maybe I'm being too picky. I don't think that what I want actually exists. So these are some of the thoughts that these women have. And what tends to happen is that also the pattern that I see with my driven, ambitious boss lady women are kind of black and white thinkers or all or nothing thinkers, right? Where it's like, okay, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna get myself out there. I'm gonna attract my man this time. And they go full on, like not even like sticking a toe in the water, but like all the way in, all in. And they get on 4 online dating platforms and they set themselves up with 6 dates a week. And they're just doing more and like spending more time online and going as hard at it as they can. And then after a couple of weeks, they have some so-so dates, and then they have some not so great day, like really bad day. And then they get frustrated and they get burnt out. And then there's this sense of like throwing the hands up. I call it flipping the table and walking out of the restaurant. And then in that space, they dive head back into like what it was, where it is in their life that they feel like either they have the most control or the most power, because they're feeling really powerless and they're feeling like out of control in this area of their life and their love life, because they're not getting what they want and they're not getting any kind of evidence to support that what they want actually exists and that they can have it. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. But what's great is that that's actually the mentality that makes them so successful in other areas of their life. But unfortunately, relationships and human interaction there's just a softer dynamic that we need to implement in order to get what we truly want in love.
Oh my gosh, yes. I love, you just said so many powerful things. I can't wait to dive into all of that. That was so hugely important. And I was like laughing over here because those are all the things I used to say. Like, I can't find anyone that's like, meets my vision, or I hate to say it, like on my level, because I was pretty successful like back when I was going through all of this. So and I hear that a lot in clients too. What would you say to them, and what's like the first thing you would do to start turning their perception around, if that's what you would have them do, or what's the first step to turning this around? Women who aren't meeting the type of men or attracting the type of men who line up with their vision for what they truly want in a relationship.
Yeah, well, the very first step with creating anything new in our life that we've never had is creating the vision and creating like that level of desire and the image, the qualities of the man, the relationship that we desire. Now, most women have already gotten that far, but then what tends to happen is that we get this gap between what our vision is and what we're actually experiencing in our love life. So there's a couple of things that the women listening to this video can do. One of them is what I call becoming an evidence junkie, which is essentially, our belief system is based on our history and our experience and what we know to be true, the certainty of our past, what we have experienced and what we like can tangibly refer back to as like, this is what I know to be true. Where we get into like some shaky ground is like looking into this uncertainty and what has not yet come to fruition. And so in the absence of that information, in the absence of that evidence in our own life, we tend to fall back into this gravitational black hole of what we think is.
Yes.
Becoming an evidence junkie, yeah, totally, is like looking for examples in our life, whether that be in our personal life and the people that we know firsthand in our life, like family, friends, coworkers, mentors, especially, and it doesn't necessarily have to be friends. We can also look to celebrities, like who's got what we want. Like, I always use like the power couples, like Jay-Z and Beyonce. Like, I mean, like that is like just such a power dynamo dynamic, right? But then we can also look at like some other celebrity couples that have been together for ages, like Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson, man. Like they're not really like making big waves, and they're not like, we don't read about them because they're not causing drama all the time, but they've been together for years and years, like decades. So the more we can look at where evidence exists in our life of the kind of relationship, the qualities, the interactions between the people, and then the key is to connect ourselves to that evidence, which we can do in various different ways. Like, oh, I love that, moving away from the oh God, that is so gross, into the how beautiful, I love that, I love what they have. And then what I do is like, I'm next, or like I want that, like connecting our desire with that instead of like that disconnecting energy of like, I call it the eye roll energy, but moving into that connection energy. I want that. That's so beautiful. I want that in my life. I'm next. I'm ready.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love everything you say. I just always love. So what I'm hearing is, I call it, we can get stuck thinking our history is our destiny, that if men have hurt us before, then they'll hurt us again. Or we can think that everything we experience is kind of like, this is how it is. Our brains are hardwired to want to be right. Then we go out there and we attract evidence to confirm these stories we're telling ourselves and our beliefs. Then we're like, oh, I was right all along to doubt myself or to be afraid of getting hurt. And we just get stuck in this cycle. So what I hear you saying is lining up your energy with your desire, not maybe what's happened in the past, if it hasn't been so good, or like the energy of discouragement, maybe what's going on right now, right? And so there's like this gap of time. It's basically taking your focus off of what is going on right now and flowing your energy towards what you actually want. Do I have that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And a lot of times, like what does happen is, you mentioned this energy of discouragement. We can keep connecting with our vision and keep connecting with our desire. But again, like and even connecting with that evidence, but if still the results in our love life are not living up to this vision that we have for our ultimate partnership, what tends to happen again is we either get burnt out, or like you were saying, we've got this hard wiring to be right. And we, that pattern recognition, we're saying like, oh, well, of course that happened because this is how it is for me.
Yes.
And the other thing that I would recommend for the women in the audience to do is to kind of like zoom the lens out super duper wide. And I call it climbing up to the lifeguard chair of your life and like looking down on the beach to like look at where the micro improvements are. Looking at where, like, for example, I have a client who, she has this belief that she cannot have what she wants. And every single guy she goes out with, despite the fact that the quality of men entering her orbit has increased, right? But she still comes back to, oh, I just can't have what I want. I just can't have what I want. But again, when we zoom out, when we climb up to the lifeguard chair of our life, when we look at like the minutia that's happening with these new men, these new high quality men who are entering her orbit, we're actually finding that, like, okay, man number one, well, he's financially stable, he's a leader in his industry, and he, I don't know, has property in like 3 different cities, whatever, I'm just making stuff up. And maybe he's not like the ultimate picture of the vision that she desires, but what we can start to do is look at where we are getting elements of what we want. Even if it's not that 360-degree picture of our desire, we can say, well, I'm getting what I want here. And oh my gosh, and Mr. Letter B, I call my Misters very funny names, but like Mr. A has these 3 things, Mr. B has these 3 things, and Mr. C invited me on this trip, and I've always wanted to be whisked away, so I am getting what I want. And the more we lean into this idea of like, wow, like this is more evidence gathering, you can see.
I love it. So it's like seeing every single thing that's happening as getting you one step closer to what you want. It's like looking for evidence that your love story exists first. I heard you say that. And then every single thing that happens, make it mean that you're getting one step closer to what you want. I love that. I so can relate to that. I have clients where their belief is just like, dating sucks, and they'll come tell me about, I had this great date and I have 4 guys chasing me and I'm really attracted to one of them. Dating sucks. I'm like, well, wait a minute. You just like, look at all these amazing experiences that you've never had before. So it can be easy to focus on what we don't want. Or I love what you said, the fact that like if a man shows up and he's great and he's better quality than what you're used to attracting, but he's still not everything you're looking for, like looking for those small wins, that momentum, or like, getting you one step closer to what you want. I really, really love that. And so would you say that's how a woman starts to like change her perception and maybe eventually her beliefs about whether or not she can have everything she wants?
Oh my God, absolutely. I mean, look, you said it yourself. Like it's so easy to say dating sucks. It's so easy to say F this, it's like, but yes, and we can't deny the desire that we have in our heart. And, with anything in life, to get from where we are now to where we want to be, to create something new, we have to adopt a new perception, a new mindset. And, one of the umbrella, one of the overarching lenses that I give the women that I work with is, how is this unfolding in your favor? How is this happening for you? And when we start to like engage in, I call it conscious dating. And when we are in a conscious dating practice where our lenses are, how is this unfolding in my favor versus like, well, I can't get what I want. This guy's not enough. This guy's not enough.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, there's the whole not enough question or conversation, which is a reflection of our own not enough conversation. That's a whole other video that we could do. But, when we have that lens of how is this happening for me, then, and with a little like healthy dose of unattachment, then it starts to become like a magical mystery ride. It starts to become like this following the clues and a journey more of self-discovery than this like super attachment to the end goal of getting a man, because that's in my perception and in what I teach is that, in creating anything new in our life, whether that be a new relationship with outrageous lasting love or a new business or a cross-country move, I mean, it's, to be a little trite, it's so much less about the destination and so much more about the journey. And again, creating something new in our life is a tremendous journey of self-realization, self-exploration, and untangling of some of the things that have held us back in the past. And, and that journey takes a lot of self-compassion, self-love, and non-judgment. And those are also some of the qualities that are really going to serve you in maintaining that lasting relationship.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love everything you said. I'm like getting all excited and energized. There's so much synergy around this. I love the idea. In my opinion, I think the whole reason we all want an amazing love life or anything really is for the journey and like for the fun along the way of getting what we want. And I love what you said about like releasing your attachment to the outcome or the result or the destination. And by the way, I talk about this so much because I'm like the most impatient person ever. And I have a hard time with this in other areas of my life, especially. So I talk about this a lot. I write about it a lot because it's something I struggle with myself. So what I've found is, and I love what you said about picking up those clues. So when we're so attached to that result or that destination, it's like we miss the clues because we're tuned more to like the absence of what we want. Like it's not happening yet. These guys aren't exactly what I want. Maybe it'll never happen. We're more tuned to the absence of what we want rather than the presence of what we want. And so we miss the clues. And I think the missing of these clues is really like the missing of life, right? It's a missing, right? Because if it doesn't feel good on your way to it, it's not going to feel good when you get there. I can pretty much guarantee, right? I mean, is that something that you agree with?
Yeah, absolutely. And even to like tweak that even more, if we're so focused on the absence, then there is no getting there. There's literally no one that is going to live up to that approach. I want to kind of just tweak that a little bit because I don't know, it's not coming to me right away, but there's something about just being so focused on the lack. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. Just being so focused on the lack. It almost doesn't matter who is in front of us and who we're entertaining or considering, because there's always going to be something that's missing about this person. Like he might have, 9 out of 10 things, but he's got like, a bald spot, and that's just not going to fly, or, and there's this like baby with the bathwater kind of concept that's coming up for me where it's like,
I look back on when I was sort of stuck on the emotionally unavailable kind of men maybe about 10 years ago, and I look back now and I'm like, wow, I discarded so many great available men for the like strangest little reasons, but at the time I couldn't see how great they really were. I literally could not see. It's like the perfect man for me. Everything I said I wanted could show up, and I wouldn't even see him, or I wouldn't see how great he really was, because everything was going through my filter of lack or past experiences, or just trying to get that one unavailable man to commit to me. Is that something you see as well in successful, driven, ambitious women?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's this. And the approach that I see is that when they're not living up, and there's this focus on the lack, then the tendency for women, especially like high achieving women who are accustomed to overachieving and success, they'll tend to double down or try harder or do more, which is kind of the opposite energy of attracting a man who has that that masculine drive, that kind of energy that is, do more, try harder.
Yeah, actually that's the perfect segue to like what I wanted to ask you next was this. There's a difference between like acquisition and attracting. And I would love to hear anything you have to say about that.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. It's something that I speak with a lot with the women that I work with, because so much of what we've accomplished in our life, whether it be the business or the corner office or the condo or the Tesla or whatever, and I'm not trying to like, speak into these kind of superficial things, but there is this reward system set up in society where that we get rewarded for our achievements. We get rewarded for the things that we do. And a lot of times those rewards are these, sort of like surface level reflections of those achievements and those doings. And those are all like things that we've either achieved or acquired. And to create achievement, to create acquirement, that's all in the doing and the force and the push and the drive, which is awesome when it comes to profession and when it comes to like getting shit done. I hope I can swear. But when it comes to, like I said before, when it comes to relationships, and especially interpersonal relationships with men and women in the romantic world, in the romantic sphere, there is a biological polarity that draws us together. And it does show up in other romantic dynamics between men and men and women and women. my specialty in particular is between men and women. So, but there, like I said, there is this biological driver that men need certain things when it comes to committing to a woman. They need to feel certain things. And in order for them to feel these certain things, like seen and understood and being respected and feeling useful, like there's a place in her life for him. In order for him to feel these things, women, even, God love them, God love us, the strong, independent, ambitious, driven women, even if we have everything we need, we still have desire. And when we're talking about desire, then we're talking about like the softer side of attraction, of like drawing things to us instead of leaning in and driving forward towards them. So for me, that's the difference between acquisition, achievement, and attraction. Attraction is more of like a magnetic pull, whereas achievement and acquisition is more of like a forward moving push.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think of it. I mean, I talk so much about feminine energy, as everyone probably knows if you're familiar with my videos and programs. And that's what I feel. It's like this feminine magnetism drawing a man towards you rather than leaning forward and trying to like push and shove your way into getting what you want, which if you've ever tried it, doesn't work, especially with masculine energy men. So what would you tell a woman who's stuck in the energy of acquisition and trying to make things happen in her love life, which obviously just pushes men away, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things, I mean, there's so many things, but one of them you had mentioned early before, the patience thing. Like, I'm one of the most impatient people in the world. Like, I totally resonate with that, as do I know the women in the audience who are high achieving, like they're nodding their heads and yeah, F that. Like, I want what I want it now. And I've always been able to like go out and create what I've wanted. But there is this, so what I would tell these women is that, I think one of the hangups that I see a lot, I know I had it, perhaps Helena, you did too, was there this equation of feminine energy and weakness or neediness. And the truth is that feminine energy is actually very, very powerful. I think of it as like a rumble of thunder, where it's like, you know, if you're ever out, I'm like, I'm in Colorado where like in the summertime, we get these afternoon storms and there'll be like this rumble of thunder and it may not be super loud, but like, boy, you feel it throughout your body because it's like this powerful, now granted it's thunder, so there's a little bit of ominous to it, but and I equate feminine energy with that, not the ominousness to it, but the power and that slow rumble that is, you know, so powerful it could move people. But, you know, just kind of coming back to like disassociating it with weakness or neediness, you know, because, you know, that in those places, then we're really exiling our desire. We're not allowing ourselves the space to have wants, have desire, have like invitation, you know, because when we're in that place of, oh, well, I don't want to be soft because that's going to make me weak, or that's going to affect my career or something like that. Actually, I really think the opposite is true. I was actually presenting with a group of feminine business leaders locally here today. And one of the things that really came up was the power of the feminine in like in business, in that there's this collaborative mindset versus the masculine historically, which is competitive. Mm-hmm. So, you know, and when we're talking about like the feminine in love attraction, if you think of that collaborative and emotive, you know, those are the things that draw men to us because, again, biologically, they're not wired the same way. And so when we can show up with our emotional self, our vulnerability, our collaborativeness, our delight in beauty, I mean, these are all the things that inspire the things in men that they don't, I mean, they have, of course, we all have masculine and feminine, but those may not be the primary lenses that these high-achieving masculine men move through life with. And so when we as women, especially like high-achieving performing women, can like fall into that softness, it really allows men the safe space to be in their emotive self or be in their vulnerability. and then they actually elevate in their own world because of that softness. It's like, it's really backwards thinking for women who, or men or women who've really been in like achievement mode their whole life. And, you know, and no fault to you, because that's kind of how our system is set up. But, you know, if you can kind of get around that mind twist, then it's a really powerful energy to be playing in.
I totally agree 100%. I'm so glad you said that too, because I see it in the comment sections of relationship advice videos. It's a common misconception, like, oh, well, feminine, doesn't that just mean be a doormat and let a guy come and go and do whatever he wants? And it's just the opposite. I really think it is the most powerful place you can come from, especially with a man. I love what you said too, that like they need us in a lot of ways, because I think as women, we're connected to ourselves and to the universe, if you want to say that, or to others in a way that men can only get connected to through us, right? So if he's a high achieving man and you're just coming with that energy, that acquisition energy, or what's the next step, or constantly trying to make something happen, you're missing these opportunities to connect, and, you know, for him to drop into his heart. And that's what I found creates that powerful emotional bond, that where a man just sees you as irreplaceable, as that woman that he never wants to live without, because he can't connect with those parts of himself without you. Does that make sense? I mean, is that something you've seen as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say that, I mean, I think it's a big statement to say that men can't connect to their heart without women, but I know that
Right. Yeah.
definitely, like, it is a big key.
Yeah.
You know, but and in the same token, there are a lot of women who live neck up, and they live upstairs, and they live in an analytical and thinking way. And so to access that area, like, you know, that attracts men is a big learning curve for these types of women too. You know, and just like off the top of my head, you know, some of the ways that we can, you know, if we are living in the head and in our logic and our thinking brain, some of the ways that we can access the heart space is slowing down. Oh, I know, like, oh, I can feel like high performing women just cringing with the,
Right.
I used to be that way too. Like, the idea of slowing down, like I would never consider meditating for a really long time, like well into my 30s, because I was like, I can't sit still that long. I got too much to do, you know, and it was just this ego driven thing. But and what I mean when I say slowing down is just pausing to, one example would be to be in your senses, you know, to take a deep breath and feel the sensation of the air moving past your nostrils, feel the sensation of your belly expanding, your chest rising, you know, being really connected to, like, you know, if you stop and smell the roses and really drinking that scent in. But those kinds of slowing down, being in your senses, being in your body, are the ways that we can get out of our own head and connect to our own heart, so that then we can be that magnetic force for these high performing men.
Yeah, I love that very concrete tool, because another thing I hear a lot of women say who are this way is like, well, I'm just not like that. I just don't have that side of me. I don't have that feminine side. This is how I am. So the thought of being feminine feels inauthentic, or it feels like I'm pretending. And what I'm hearing you say is, and what I believe is that, you know, there is that side of you in there, like waiting to be uncovered. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I have so much to say about that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both men and women have masculine and feminine energies. And honestly, like, whenever I hear somebody say, this is just the way that I am, like, that makes me like just get really excited and fired up, because whenever I hear a client talk about themselves in finites, that for me is like the tapestry to just poke holes all the way through. Because the truth is, we are constantly growing. We're constant evolution. You know, our hair grows, our fingernails grow without even us like having to think about it. You know, life itself is constant growth. There's an image that one of my teachers, Mary Morrissey, talks about, where, you know, in a like a concrete sidewalk, a blade of grass or a plant will like push through cement in order to reach the light. I mean, that is how unstoppable growth is. So whenever, you know, so anybody out there who says that this is just the way that I am, you know, we're stunting our own growth, and therefore cutting off the manifestation of that which we desire to create in our life. because anything that is creation is our own journey of growth towards it. Kind of going back to what we were saying before, the journey. So, for the women who say that this is just not who I am, I'm just not that feminine, it's what I do with the way that I work with women like that is just really pulling it way, 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 way back to super baby steps. Like, I'm not going to throw her into the deep end of the pool with like a red gown and like curl, like just the whole everything. Like, and it's not even about that, but like something like, just spending 10 minutes with your breath, or going on a nature walk and trying to trying to absorb through all 5 senses. Those are just like some of the teeny tiny micro steps that I would give a woman who's just like, I'm just not that way. I'm just not that feminine, because, or even, a practice, another tool that I use is a practice in identifying our emotions. Because again, being emotionally aware and emotionally communicative is a very feminine way of expressing ourselves, and gives men that runway to be emotive and expressive and feel safe to be in his feelings. Because feelings, our emotions don't always feel safe. So for a woman who's like, I'm just not that way, one of the things that we can do is like, print out some feeling sheets and really take an emotional audit. You can do that throughout the day or at a, very specific time of day, but really, tuning in and saying, what am I feeling in this moment, and giving it a name. And my golly, that whole skill not only is attractive to men who may not have that access to their emotions, but will serve you 10,000-fold in the context of relationship too.
I totally agree. I have women do that exact same thing, because it's amazing how many of us are like cut off from our feelings, especially if we're stuck in our to-do list and just like lunging from one obligation to another. It's like sometimes we have no idea what we're even feeling in the moment. We get stuck up in our heads. So this was great. Oh my gosh. I feel like we just could talk forever. I love what you said about expansion. I think we're just constantly expanding, constantly evolving. We can't help it. It's just one of the natural laws of the universe. But, are you pinching yourself off? Are you keeping up with that expansion or not? And if you're not, it's really uncomfortable, right? There's a lot of pain and restriction. So it's about getting into these other parts of yourself, sometimes these deeper parts of yourself, to like get to that next level and really attract what you want, right? So absolutely. I would love to hear, like, let's bring this all back around to attracting a, high quality masculine energy man. Do you have like maybe your top 3 tips or tools on how to do that? Or I would love to just tie this all together before we wrap up.
Oh yeah, that's a great one. Okay, I got to whittle it down to 3. Well, let's start with the emotions, right? Let's start with taking an emotional audit and really getting connected with what we're feeling. Like you were saying, so often we're just stuck in our to-do list, or we're going from task to task to task. And then we might feel like exhausted or drained or overwhelmed or reactive, or, any number one of these things, because we're so cut off from what we're feeling. So I would say that would definitely be one of them, which is like really tuning in and asking myself, like, what do I feel? What am I experiencing in this moment? Gosh, that would be one. And then let's see. There's also this element of unattachment, which I had referenced a while back. And that would be, I guess the bigger picture of that is, being process oriented versus goal oriented. One of the things when we are in our masculine energy and we are really driven towards that goal, what happens is we set ourselves up to be a failure every single day until we hit that goal. So if we can kind of unattach ourselves from the destination, not meaning that it's not important and it's not still the destination, but if we can unattach ourselves from that and really focus on these micro improvements, these micro wins, that really elevates our confidence and elevates like how we're showing up in our love life. Yeah, and then another one I would say is to just fully embrace your outrageous, unique self. You know, a lot of women that I speak with who are high achieving, you know, they have this fear that they can't have what they want. And so their approach is to dim their light, is to just dial down the volume on like what a BFD they are. BFD is a big flippin' deal, or whatever F word you want to put in there. You know, but then if we dial down our brightness, if we, you know, then we will attract something similar. We're attracting a less than extraordinary situation. So just really like claiming the amazingness, the outrageousness, the full on spectrum, that which is you, and you know, being in touch with our emotional self, and being on the ride for the journey. And if, you know, and the thing about the journey piece is that that does take quite a bit of mindset work. It does take a lot of inner reflection, a lot of self-compassion, self-love. And that's where working with a coach like Helena or myself really comes in handy, because it is a process. It's not just a Band-Aid, you know, and that's the other thing that like we want it yesterday. and the thing is that, you know, leaning into this feminine energy is, you know, there's not a cut and dry way of doing it. There's not a Band-Aid solution to make it happen right away. So there is this leaning back and trusting the process, trusting God, source energy, universe, however, whatever your relationship is, or even trusting highest self, looking at evidence of how you have created something out of nothing, or how you have so much of the life that you've always dreamt of. You know, and really trusting that you can do it again in this arena.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing those. And I love what you said too. It's not about making yourself smaller or squashing parts of yourself down. It's actually about expanding. I like to think of it as expanding both your masculine and your feminine energy, just kind of using them in ways that are going to work for you, right? Like combining them and using them in a way that's going to bring the man that you want closer rather than push him away. So this was such a powerful interview. Wow, I feel like we should definitely do some more of these. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom. I love just how I feel like you're so deep and brilliant. I feel like this bottomless pit of like amazing information. So we should definitely do this again. And where can everyone find your free gift? And tell us a little bit about that. Of course, I'll post a link to that in the description below this video as well.
Sure. Yeah, you can find the free gift on bexburton.com. And I also have another gift on bexburtoncoaching.com. So if you want both, then you can go visit 2 different sites. I'm working on kind of bringing that back down to one. But one gift is 10 things to stop doing in your love life right now. And a lot of them are things that we just don't even think about. Energetic things and the things that are actually repelling men instead of drawing them closer to us. And then I also have a gift that is 6 mindful practices to open up to love. So if you're not quite in that place of in your conscious dating practice, this is going to help you set up to get there.
That is fantastic. I'll post links to both of those and any other way that people can get a hold of you. I'm sure everyone's going to be interested in learning more about what you do. I know that you put on a lot of like great summits and all kinds of things. So I'll include links to everything. Thank you so much. And everyone who's watching, type in your thoughts and experiences in the comment section below. We love hearing from you. And Bex, I hope to talk with you again soon.
Sounds great, Helena. It would be a pleasure. Bye, everyone.